16. It
the
took
reason
us a couple of years to get there, but
to
either
get
way,
there, but the reason was because we developed a journey.
the journey.
We
Exactly.
developed the customer journey, and we'll talk about that
That's
when we talk
second
about the
team.
toolbox. When we
Second
talk about
team is the journey.
second team, we build journeys, right? We build customer journeys from start to finish. That's the whole thing about a
Right.
comprehensive, cohesive digital strategy.
A
That
big
is a
difference maker when it comes
right?
not only to activity but profit.
Yeah. So again, like just closing the loop finally on the problem with agencies is as agencies are pulling the wool over your eyes. You feel trust with them, you feel credibility with them, but I promise you, 95% of the agencies out there, if you go and hire them, they are charging you a ridiculous bill rate, and they're not paying their employees that. I mean, it's at least 40 to 50% margin. So if the bill rate that you see on your invoice is 185, not a single one of the people that you're actually working with that is doing the work for your company, not a single one of them is making over 90 an hour. Most of them are making 60 to 65 an hour plus their benefits. And that's great for the agency. That sucks for you.
But are they really capable? Is that the
Who?
talent that you really want at $60 to $65 an hour?
It is, but I'll tell you this. The problem with that talent is that they all live in North America. And the problem with that talent living in North America is they're not any better or any more specialized or any more educated than talent living outside of the U.S. borders or Canada, right? Or in Europe. Well, and I say Europe, I mean like England, France.
Why is that relevant?
It's relevant because of cost of living, right? So there's access in multiple lower cost of living nations. There's access to the education. There's access to the certification online. There's access to the training online. And a lot of the talent that's out there, right? We don't talk about this. This isn't something that people discuss. Now, if you go on to Upwork or freelancer.com or Fiverr, you're going to find this talent out there. The difficult part of that is managing that talent. And then once you have multiples of them, once you have like 5, 6, 7, 8 freelancers that you're working with, that management becomes way more expensive than the cost benefit. Also on Freelancer and on Upwork is taking a massive chunk. So you're not getting their true bill rate because they have to inflate their bill rate. Also, they know that they're getting North American clients. So they're going to try to push that envelope into the talent that you want. The talent that you want is going to be $35 to $60 an hour, right? But 25% of that bill rate is going to go straight to Upwork. So the talent that you're getting isn't even getting that. And that's another thing that you have to understand is when you get the freelancers, and if they're on freelancer.com, at some point, maybe they're comfortable enough with you that they'll leave freelancer.com, and then you work out a different exchange rate or you work out a different bill rate. There's so much involved in your taxes at the end of the year, your HR at the end of the year. There's a lot of loopholes that if you're not careful, give it a 4 or 5 year window, and the IRS is going to absolutely want to understand that you're actually being above board. There's a lot of regulation around it, around hiring freelancers that are non-U.S. border, right? That are in other nations, and there's some of those nations have very strict regulatory policies against American businesses hiring them and contracting them. So there's just a lot of loopholes that you need to know. So that's more time that you have to invest. So I just keep trying to explain there's this gap because if those 3 options suck, what is your only other option? And look, at some point, do it yourself. At some point, someone else is going to understand the model that we're doing, and we're going to have competition. Right now, we don't have competition. What works for us is that we have our senior leadership expertise. We know the type of talent outside of the North American borders to hire. We know the certifications to look for. We know the type of work experience, the type of verifiable, trackable, visible results that we want to be able to see that our talent have done and produced. We want to go see those websites. We want to see those marketing campaigns. We want to see those ROIs. By the way, there's no way to lie or cheat about that. Like you have a statement showing the time from when you started working on a campaign to the end of that campaign. You have the ability to show the engagements, the conversions, the impressions, the ROI, right? You have the ability to show show your work, so to speak. And that's in every aspect of digital strategy, especially on the analytics side, especially on the platform side. You had a client that had a shitty platform before. You implemented a great platform. You should be able to show better traffic, better conversion, less friction. All these things should be verifiable. We go through that rigorous process of understanding our team members that we bring on, right? and then we do that direct translation to our client. We pass on that value.
Well, that part's been done for a lot. For the most part, we've gone through that process before we decided to do these videos. And
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we have tons of clients
be
that we can
aggressive
show.
with going and getting new clients.
Of course, that's the reason that we're doing this
Our
now.
reputation is the most valuable thing that you and I both have.
Yes.
And we weren't going to risk that.
I'm not going to
until we
risk.
had a team in place
No, not at all. Not
that
at all.
would be able to execute.
Not
And
at all.
That took
Well,
5 months almost
3 years.
to find Hope,
It took
find Louie,
it took
to
15
find the hashtag team that we have.
it took 15 years of our life experience in our career.
Yeah.
And then it took 3 years of doing this as a hobby, as a favor basically to our friends in business, right?
Yeah.
And then it took about 8 months of really hammering it out, testing it on really big, a couple of big clients like Jersey Mike's, right? Like testing that
Right.
out and proving that and being able to say, well, look, okay, so if Jersey Mike's is happy, we can go ahead and bring this to the rest of the world, right?
We didn't have
it's
time.
comfortable.
I mean,
So-
we really weren't. I didn't
Well,
get
look-
involved until 5 or 6 months ago.
Yeah, it was-
I didn't even know that you had second team.
yeah, it was never meant to be anything more than
You didn't
something.
even mention it to your best friend for the most part.
No, I mean,
it really wasn't anything that was developed in a sense because we didn't go through the vetting process together.
no. And then once we
And then
did,
what we've learned is our
Yeah.
work together is much stronger than it is apart.
yeah, and
Because
there's
I
no
don't do what
reason.
you do, and you don't do what I do.
Yeah, I think the
Just
biggest
that.
piece of that is that there's no reason to keep this kind of secret sauce from the rest of the world, right? Especially for the businesses that are in that bracket, that 1 to 10 million a year, that just keep hitting a plateau, and they're either at 3 million, they can't get past 3 million. They're at 8 million, they can't get past 8 million. They're trying their best on digital, and they just can't overcome it, or they're killing it on digital, but they're losing traction on their brick and mortar, and it doesn't need to be that way. They're actually. I think one of the biggest things that we do is actually bring the two of those things cohesively together, right? To like enrich the brick and mortar experience. If you're regional, holy shit, you need to hire us. If you're regional and you have brick and mortar, or you go do live services in a territory, in a region, I mean, you gotta call us. You gotta talk to us, right? Because that opens the conversation, Sean, now for like, what is the toolbox? What are the tools that we bring to the table, right? What is it that we actually do? What is digital strategy? So we've broken digital strategy up into 3 pillars, right? And we talk about the 3 pillars kind of all the time. I think the most important pillar that people overlook all the time is analytics, and we call that pillar performance. And truly, I believe that kind of my secret sauce, what's made me successful in every area that I've been in since I've started my professional career, is I can see the end goal like right away. Like first 15 minutes to an hour talking to a customer, talking to a client, I can see their 10-year plan. I can see where all their potential and everywhere everything that they should and have potential to become. I can see that 10, 15 year down the road, like instantly. And then what we do is we reverse engineer everything backwards from there, right? I mean, that's how I do my own personal life. It's how I raise my kids. I see where my kids need to be 15, 20 years from now, and I reverse engineer everything backwards to where they are at 12 and at 8 and at 7 and at 3 and the twins.
There are a ton of businesses that don't
2
even
years
know
old.
what data is.
Right, and that's the biggest problem, right? So
why don't you give us the Cliff Notes version?
The Cliff Notes
We'll
version
dive
is
more into it
sure.
later
I mean,
session.
the best way that I can
Just-
the best way that I can say this is this, right? Why does every single doctor that wants to go see you for an annual checkup do a blood panel? Right? Because inside of this body, there's a whole lot of information that if they can unlock that information and see that information, right? That data, right, all goes up against benchmarks, right? All goes up against baselines. And so you're either above or below those baselines, and that is what gives a really good generalist doctor, a general practitioner. It gives them the best way to really. They can look in your mouth and look up your nose and take your blood pressure and your temperature and all those things, but it's really that blood panel, right? It's really that blood panel, that data. And I think every one of us, unless you're like a 19-year-old entrepreneur that's just crushing it, and you're thinking about us, which good for you, kiddo, right? Like. please call me, and just so I can tell you that you're fucking awesome, right? Most of us have been through those panels enough that we actually understand it. And I think that's why I use it as the analogy, because we've done our panels enough to we've looked at our own blood panels enough to, we understand them. We understand all the data in that blood panel. By the time you're in your 40s, you really need to know, I understand what my lipids are, and I understand what my cholesterol needs to be at. And then deeper than that, I understand what's happening in my body based on what my doctor goes over. And I can go in, look at my chart, and be able to read that panel and say, I know what I need to do. I can't have sugar anymore. Simple, right? I need to cut down on saturated fats. I need to exercise more, right? Because my blood pressure is just not where it should be. That's the same. We aspect of your business, especially online, especially in the digital, has a blood panel. Everything. And when we're surgeons in that regard. I can look at those data panels, right, and be able to literally unlock massive levels of knowledge and truth and actionable best practices or new ways that we can A/B test, or an A/B test just means taking an action that we're doing right now that we know works, and then testing it against maybe a variation of that, and seeing if there's an increase, an improvement, or a decrease in the performance of that particular model. So we look at that. We look at that as surgeons. I mean, honest to God, if there was a doctoral degree in data, which I think there actually is, that's what we would be. We would be surgeons when it comes to data, and looking at the data.
You would be that.
I would
be that. Second team would be that.
Second
I
team
wouldn't be that.
Second team would be that.
I wouldn't be anything like that.
Right. So second team would be that. Right. So we can go in.
I want to know what the data is telling, and what you have been able to explain. What I do is social engineering. And
you do the social. That's what you do is social engineering and
social engineering.
So if we reverse engineered it, if you looked at the data first, right, then we would go to you and we would say, hey, Sean, so what we're finding is that customers don't love our emails, but they do love our social media reels. Okay. And so we would take a look at that and we would say, what's happening in our social media reels? What is it? Is it about our customer, or is it about our email? And if it's about our email, then we also can look at that and just say, well, then we don't need to do email. If our email is ineffective, and no matter what we test into, and no matter what segment of our customer base we're testing into, that email campaign is ineffective, don't spend the fucking money. Don't do it. It's like 10 years ago, we said, stop doing postcards, stop doing mailers, stop doing stuffers, right? In automotive, we said, stop doing radio, stop doing TV. Okay, it's very realistic that in the next 5 years, no one's going to do email anymore.
No.
What's the last email that you opened that was from something that you didn't actually expect to have coming to you, right? So fuck it.
If that email hits you exactly when you're in the buying.
Exactly when you're in that, right? And so that is another thing that we do well.
And
is in that social engineering, we can set up the expectation. And I think that's a big piece, that the data side of what we do in performance is really all about justifying and putting the data to as best of a thesis or of a hypothesis, right, that we can then test into. I think that's the critical piece of data and performance as one of our pillars, right? Now, the juicy side that everybody loves is marketing. Everybody loves the marketing pillar, and we call that people. And the reason we call it people is because marketing is not all of it. Advertising is not all of it. Social is some of it. It's people. People, we don't even call it marketing, right? So people, I like how you call it social engineering. It's also part of selling. It's conversional, like transactional conversion, right? So this is who are your people? Who should your people be? Do you know every customer that you should have, right? Do we understand them like in terms of segmentation? Do we understand them in terms of personas? Have we diagnosed that? Have we diagnosed that? Have we done a study and analysis of like, are you regional or should you be national? Is there a way for us to become national, right? And so people is all about, again, there's so much of data. If we didn't do data, if we don't do the data pillar, then a lot of what we're doing in the people pillar is actually a lot of guesswork, and it's actually more expensive. You would think like standing up the performance pillar is expensive. It's costly. It's not. It's an investment, right? It's a practical investment that makes all the other pillars less expensive, because if you have data at the beginning to be able to extract and build formulas and build theses off of, then when you're looking at your marketing, you have a more educated standpoint to say, these are the target markets that we're going to go test into. These are the target markets we're not even going to bother with. This is the understanding of our competitive landscape and our competitors, that we're not even going to mess with that space because they're not unique offerings. They're overlapping offerings, and the cost to compete in that space doesn't make sense based on other areas of opportunity where we absolutely can go and hyper target and dive down in with higher conversion, and then our profit margins look even better and our ROI is even higher. Right? That's how we unlock that, getting past the plateau and getting past 10 million in total revenue, and start getting to the point where online and digital strategy is starting to become 30 to 40%, if not even higher than that, of your total revenue. Right? And that's just one aspect of it. The other thing is, when you start to open up the platform pillar that we do, platform is not just your website. Platform is not just your website. Platform is anywhere that we can get a customer, your customer, right, to check out with money and transact on your offering. And that can be on TikTok. It can be on social media. It can be on Google, right? It can be on eBay. It can be on Amazon. It can be on unique offerings inside of email, where email can work. Here's a big one. Woo! It can be on an app. It can be on an affiliate offer where you have other people selling your offering for you, leveraging their traffic in exchange for a small commission. So platform is an entirely robust and exciting pillar, because it opens our minds up way beyond just, I need a sexy website. I need a fast performing website. I need a website that has a user experience that is at least Amazon benchmark, which, by the way, I actually think Walmart's website currently in the last 2 years is way better experience than Amazon. And there's a lot of data, performance pillar. There's a lot of great data trying to, actually prove Target is right there, hanging level with Walmart.
Heard that.
Right? Target's conversion, but their in-store is where they get it done. Their in-store is where they get it done. So what they've done, which is so fucking sexy, is they know that their in-store experience just checks all the boxes for their customer, right? So what Target does so well is they use the app and they use their website to complement the in-store experience, because a Target shopper wants to be in store. They want to go and experience that journey. A Walmart customer, I'm probably...
See, that's why me and you work so well together. But literally, right? If you look at my notes, second, sales and marketing, second team advantage, journey, complement. Complement is a big word. I think that's something we certainly need to dive into.
Yeah, and I think
it's subtle. It's very subtle, but it's meeting the expectation of the consumer.
But subtle is sexy, and subtle. The reason that it's subtle is because you're going to hear us.
Subtle is what gets me fired up. That's what gets me excited.
Me too.
It's that subtle difference, because it really is the difference maker.
It really is.
One will purchase from you.
Yes.
And two will pay you the money.
We'll pay you the money, and we'll pay you more money. So you're going to.
And tell their friends.
And
right. So
now you're talking about lifetime value. Now you're talking about lifetime customer value. And that starts to increase. The thing that's cool about the subtlety, and why subtlety is sexy, we should probably coin that, right? Like, subtlety is sexy. Is because we talk in digital all the time about frictionless, right? Frictionless. Set the expectation up, get your customer understanding the expectation of the experience, and then deliver on that experience. And no matter
we've had people that have come into the store and literally ended up calling their wife and was just like, I got to buy a car today.
I got to buy it. I got to do it.
I have to buy a car today.
Then
really had no intention of buying a car. I don't even know if I want it.
Yeah,
but
they end up doing it.
I like my car, but you know what? I really like what these guys
What
do.
is that,
I
Sean?
really like the day that I had.
What is it?
I really like how they made me feel.
What is that?
I don't know if I can even put it into one word, man. What it is, bliss.
Okay.
From my standpoint,
it's a delightful customer experience.
It's a delighted customer experience. But
it's a delightful customer experience.
The reality of it, that to me, I think that's what got me the most addicted to sales.
Yeah.
Is that feeling that you have when a customer purchases something from you.
Oh yeah.
When they don't even know if they wanted it.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
They don't even know if they wanted it.
I feel it's the
They
engineering.
came back to
I feel
trade
it's
in
yeah.
their car 2
Yep.
months later just because they wanted to see you and say, you know what, I got money.
Yeah.
You know, there are a lot of influencers out there that constantly talk about how money is not it's not limited.
It's
There's
not
so
limited.
much of it out there.
It's just
Where
energy.
is my money?
It's
Is a
just
big thing.
energy.
Where
It's
is
just
my
energy.
money? There's
It's just
so
energy.
much money out there.
Money is
People
no different
pay.
than it. It's just energy.
People pay you the money.
It's just energy.
Now we work in and I work in real estate too, so I'm used to expensive purchases. I'm used
Sure.
to
High ticket.
you know,
High ticket.
high ticket items.
Yeah, high ticket. Right.
You've worked with all sorts of products.
Everything.
So it's
Everything
a really
out there.
well-rounded
Yeah.
sort of balance that we
Yeah.
bring to the table. No
And
matter what product it is you're selling, if
Yeah.
it's jewelry, you know,
Doesn't matter.
if it's a car, if it's a
Services.
home,
Bring me services.
or services, or
services.
if it's your bow tie, or if it's a headset or a pair of sunglasses.
Yeah.
We really can service any product.
Well, because what
We
it
really
comes
can.
down to is, like, I think we talk about it. It's not even sales engineering, which was what I loved 10 years ago was sales engineering. I think what it is now is it's experience engineering. It's customer journey, right? You're engineering a customer journey. And I think that I love this the most about what you bring to the table, and what this is another differentiator. Like, if we really had to boil it down, the differentiators for Second Team is experience level at our cost. You're not going to find an agency at our price point anyways. You're just not. You're not. Then if you stack that agency up against our talent level, there's no other option. There's no other option. It doesn't make any sense, right? The third piece is that we bring your component into it, which is the cohesive round trip, rounding out the experience. We tie brick and mortar together with digital. We tie digital with brick and mortar. And that means your people at your company. Sean is going to engineer a cohesive game plan, a roadmap of, hey, this is what we're doing in digital. This is what we're changing in the store. And this is the new suit that I need you to wear. This is the new experience.
I've ran teams that
oh my God.
Sales members. And,
Yeah.
and a lot of what I did was allocation of those resources. People
That's right.
are resources.
People are resources.
I mean,
they're one of your best resources. They're probably one of your best resources.
I really don't like looking at them like that, but that's the reality. They are resources. How best to allocate those resources?
That's right.
So do you have a follow-up process? What salespeople are talking to which set of customers?
That's right.
You know, are they in automotive? There are a lot of different departments.
Yeah.
So a lot of that was redesigning just the sales floor.
The floor.
To maximize the results. And
Got a question.
I can do that with any business once I've gotten to know
That's
the
right.
personality. My background's also in psychology.
That's why you're such a good engineer. Yeah. I have a question for you.
Of it, but I mean,
I have a question for you
not,
then.
if I'm being humble. I mean, it's a huge part of it is being able to read people really like that.
That's right.
Sometimes I don't even need to meet them. I'll just look at their social media page because I've looked at hundreds of thousands of social media
I love how you
pages.
do this. I love how you do this.
Every customer I've ever got a lead from, the first thing that I did was go to their social media.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, and in today's world, that would be actually sort of, that would be, I don't know the right word for it, like not invasion of privacy. Like
it's not.
the way that they do it now, like appropriate.
Like if you're going to go on a date with someone, you're going to check them out. You're going to figure out.
Well, we had business.
You know.
I had owners that thought that it was inappropriate for our salespeople to be looking customers up.
Yeah,
on social
that was
media.
also 10 years ago. 6 years ago.
Don't get ahead. Don't get too ahead. We're not that old. We're not that old. It hadn't been that long ago, man.
No, you're right.
And now
You're right.
you watch senators in front of committee hearings, and they're saying, "Does my phone know that I stayed at the Hyatt last night? Does my phone know that I asked for extra bed towels?
It does.
Does my phone know that I went to the gym
Yes.
and didn't wear underwear?"
Maybe there might sometimes
who
depends
knows?
on what you
I
said.
don't know. You know.
Depends on what you said. Depends on what apps you have on your phone. There's all kinds of crazy shit going on. So I have a question to ask you.
Yeah,
if you were talking to one of our clients and they didn't have an actual sales team, right? So we've got email going out. We've got emails going out to their customers, and customers are responding to those emails, or we have live chat, and the live chats maybe going to like the digital commerce team, or the live chats going to the in-house marketing team or whatever. what would your suggestion? What would your kind of like? What would you initially kind of discussions you would have with that client about maybe opening up the suggestions in the door to maybe not necessarily an on the floor salesperson if that's something that they don't want to do. We know a lot of companies that are going that way. Like, Best Buy kind of led the charge there. Well, actually, I think Circuit City did, and then they went out of business.
You're saying who was responding to customer feedback?
Yeah, I'm saying like if you were talking to a client and you were in the initial engagement of kind of the customer journey, your side of the customer journey engineering, right? And you ask them the question of, do you have a sales team? Do you have people that close deals, or do you have people that your customers directly work with to finish off or after the process of a sale, that they're going to work with? If your client said no, we don't have that. We don't have any of that. What would the next kind of steps you would take with them? What would that look like?
Well, I would say that they're literally shooting themselves in the foot.
Okay.
Why are they sending out? Why are they sending out email? Why are they trying to get customer feedback? Why are they trying to create activity that they have no?
They want an online. They want a completely online sale, right? Or they want a customer to come in the store and they want
that has no customer service.
And they want a customer to come in the store and they want them to like grab the product and take it off the shelf and bring it to the register.
You would have to provide being transparent would be my recommendation for the most part. It would be the first thing that I would show on my website. I would have you make sure that you give the customer a credible reason why you haven't hired a salesperson. I would be honest. What are you? Why are you not a gimmick? Why are you not?
I think it's a disconnect. I think it's totally a disconnect. Yeah.
I don't know how you run a business without.
I think a lot of people listening to this would be like, what the hell are you guys talking about? What are you talking about? What are you guys talking about? What do you mean? There's so many brick and mortars that like, but I think that it's worth the investigation for every single customer out there.
The minimum you'd have to have is chat and say that we will get back to you.
Minimum.
I've never worked for a business that didn't have some element of a sales team. Now, again, I was in high ticket items.
That's true.
So I get it that you're saying that, what would you do if
what if your highest ticket item was $225?
Beats headphones. This is a good example.
Yeah.
Beats headphones.
Right.
They probably don't have many people online that are trying to sell you Beats headphones because they're very popular.
Right.
People are going to come into the store and buy it anyway.
Yeah.
But they use social media to sell, and they have an infrastructure to be able to sell online. So
they do.
If you're a Beats headphones that doesn't have the Beats brand,
maybe
you'll be lucky if you have a really good product not to have a sales team.
Yeah.
But you're just shooting yourselves in the foot.
What if you're a restaurant?
You're going to go out of business.
What if you're a restaurant?
I don't know.
What if you're
a restaurant, you don't have any, then you're going to have negative feedback.
There you go.
I mean, you're not going to have a positive experience because there'll be plenty of clients, plenty of customers that will go online and destroy you for the most part.
What if you're a reseller?
If you get enough of those, it's really hard.
You're done. Now you're paying us. Now you're paying us to take over social reputation and reputation management.
Reputation management is
costly.
a big part about it. That's got to be a huge element. Probably the first thing I would say is, what do your Google reviews look like?
Yeah.
If you're asking me that question, what would be the first thing I would do? I would look at your reputation management and then reverse engineer it for how do I improve it?
100%.
And how do I apologize to my customers for ignoring it?
That's right. That's why we talk about all the time. We talk about iterative feedback, right? Take a sample set of your online customers and survey. Survey at the end of a session if they don't transact. Survey at the end of a transaction.
We talked about that a lot. What is the best way to survey your customers? And that's an evolving
things like
science as well.
Yep.
That's an evolving.
And you can't do that without the performance pillar. You can't do that without
data. But again,
data.
It's how you're reaching that customer.